because our politics have really descended into this gutter of place of like, it's just like a disgusting bar fight of drunkenness. And this next guest, I would consider an expert on those things because he's a Philly sports fan. You know a thing or two about drunk fights. Host of Waters World, co-host of The Five, Jesse Waters is here.
How you doing, Jimmy?
Good, good. And could you confirm for my listeners, because we talk a lot about Philly sports fans on this show, they're a pretty hard scrabble bunch, but they live up to the stereotype in a good way. They're passionate. They care.
So I took my wife to an Eagles game. She'd never been there before. It was a playoff game. And she accidentally wore a purple pullover. And we happened to be playing the Minnesota Vikings. So we get out of that car, and they just descended on this poor girl, like taunting. They threw a beer at her.
Yeah.
We hadn't even gotten inside the stadium. So she had to take the pullover off, and underneath she had a white cutoff tank top, which was even worse. Yeah. It attracted even more attention, but the wrong kind as well. So they're just barbaric, and we love them for that.
Well, I love them because what Philly fans are to me is they're what Yankee fans used to be before they priced the character out of the stadium.
How much is a beer there now?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Like $18.
Yeah, no one throws beer. It's $18.
Right.
You're not throwing a beer.
It's like lumber.
You show up in a Red Sox jersey, you'll get hit with an iPad mini, maybe an engagement ring. They're not throwing beer at you. But Jesse is here. He's got a fantastic new book out called How I Saved the World. And I mean this. It was helpful. It was, I read like a grown-up. I read it cover to cover. I had real questions. But there was one point you made earlier that I make a lot on this show that I think people would be surprised to hear coming from you. But in a roundabout way, you're kind of rooting for the Democratic Party to regain its, you called it its rigor. You said they've lost their rigor.
Yeah.
They don't care for substantive debate. They're more consumed with character assassination, which, to be fair, you do a lot of character assassinating in the book. Most of it is your own, which I found endearing.
Yes, I committed suicide in this book. I call it a confessional because I really poured my heart out, and that's what I wanted to do.
Well, listen, you did this right, because if you're writing a screenplay, people want to see vulnerability out of the hero. Like, they like to see Clint Eastwood get beat up before he kills everybody at the end. And there were some moments. There was some, I guess your parents sent you to a lot of summer camps.
Yes. Survival camps, not a summer camp. I've been to a summer camp. You probably have too. That's where there's a cabin and there's lunch.
Somebody hits you
This was a
grounders.
survival camp. They gave you a knife and a book of matches and said, I'll see you in 10 days.
But I thought that was great. And I did love that you failed one of the camps, because apparently the actual critique
I did.
The actual critique was that, and I don't know if anybody would deduce this from watching Jesse on TV, but the claim was that you were more concerned with your suntan than rock climbing.
They said I put people's lives in danger. That was a quote. Because I didn't correctly learn all of the sophisticated ropes and ties and knots.
Thank you. But listen, I wouldn't have either. And I feel like on some level, this is what I was going to ask you, because you went to a lot of these camps. Are they just trying to get rid of you? Or did your
That was a
parents
part of it.
Is that what it was?
That was a part of it. Because, in the summertime, do you really want to put up with some annoying 16-year-old kid? No, you want to send them as far away as possible for as long as possible. So the camps kept getting longer and more dangerous. So like the first summer in like 7th grade, it was a week, then it was 2 weeks, then it was a month, then it was 2 months. And by the end, it was like, when women just go hiking by themselves and they have to send a helicopter? That's the kind of camp this was. Scary.
You can tell how your parents feel about you. Like,
yes.
Jesse, we got this nice summer camp at the Gaza Strip. You're going to love it. Just bring some rocks.
And that's how it felt like in some of these camps, because, at first it was like a bunch of preppy white kids. And then it was kids with like... kids were taking medication because of their bipolarity. Kids were showing up in like a taxi with like a Glad bag with their gear in it. Like dangerous fellows.
Criminal element at the Jesse Waters summer camps. Jesse Waters in the studio, if you're just joining us. You did say in the book, which I found interesting, that at Trinity College in Hartford was where you had your political awakening.
I got drunk and woke up in my
you.
dorm room, and I was watching C-SPAN. I don't think I'd ever turn to C-SPAN, but I was listening to the Republican senators pontificate on the floor about whatever policy they were talking about, and their philosophy just jived with the founders about limited government. So that's when it stuck. And then I turned Limbaugh. And once you turn Limbaugh on, rush baby.
Yes.
And I used to force my parents to listen to Limbaugh on long car rides. And it would cause road rage. Like my mom, I think, almost rear-ended a pickup truck after a welfare reform monologue. She was that angry. But I liked the fact that he was making my parents angry. I felt like he was saying the right things. Like, if he can make my parents angry, this guy's great.
He's your punk rock. He's
right.
your guy.
It was rebellious.
I believe if you look at accident reports across the country from 1988 to 2017, the word feminazi is listed in like 200,000 accident reports. No, he had a way of getting it done. But I was going to ask you this because you had a political awakening at college, but you didn't show up to college like hell-bent on protesting. Are you on some level fascinated by how grievance-oriented college kids are? Because, like, I never worried in college about protesting. I worried about running out of beer. You probably worried about running out of beer.
No, so I said in the book, I didn't go to college to protest. I went there to party.
Yeah.
My college, Trinity College, in 2000, I don't even think there was a college Democrat club. I never saw protests. Everybody got along. The black students got along with the white students. Everything was chill. But now you go on college campus and it's apartheid, white privilege, people are boycotting the cafeteria. I don't get it. That college is such a special opportunity. You learn whatever you want. You get to meet girls. You get to play sports. You can even make your classes. Class doesn't even have to start until noon. Sometimes.
It's your own thing.
So take advantage of that.
I know.
You have plenty of time after college to get angry and progressive.
I agree with you. I think they're wasting such an opportunity for fun.
Learn something. Have some fun.
All right, well, let's not get nuts. But
but you don't have to pay any bills. So don't take it that seriously.
But have some fun. Something you talked about in the book that I enjoyed is you talked about how you reduce the value of risk or the potential of risk as you get older.
That's why I don't tweet.
You don't tweet. That's what you were talking about.
It's like when you were 18, you would have jumped out of a plane with a parachute, right? Because that was an adrenaline rush. Would I do that now? At 42, at 43, with children, with an investment account, with property. No, you never want to do that. And that's why I don't tweet, because if I say the wrong thing, do I need any more scandal opportunity?
No.
I've had enough of that.
Well, I was going to say this to you because you acknowledged it. You said as juicy as my cancellation would be, you have to be considered in the pantheon of cancellations. You've got to be top 3 in the country. Isn't that kind of funny?
It would be orgasmic for me to be canceled on the left. I mean, we're talking as they felt. Maybe I wouldn't compare myself to Trump, but when Trump got knocked off social media, they would love to see me knocked off.
Oh man, like juicy though.
Did I just compare myself to Trump? I don't think I really meant that.
But that would be Trumpian to do.
But it would be very Trumpian to do.
To exaggerate one's stature.
Yes.
That would be good. Well, there's if everybody listening to this is listening, half of them are listening because they hate you because of your politics. They should know that if they read this book, there would be so many better reasons to hate you.
So people, when you hate watch a television show, people should hate read this book.
Yes.
Someone wrote a review on Amazon. If you love Jesse, you'll love this book. If you hate Jesse, you'll love this book.
It's right there. It's right there. But the best stories that I really took from, you talk about some life experiences where you were a bellman at the Omni Hotel in Philly, striking out with women, but it's such a good story.
Because I forgot I was wearing a bellman uniform. So I would always beeline for the babes to take their luggage upstairs, and then I'd take it upstairs and I'd deliver the bags, and I'd linger in the doorway like I had a shot, and I'd say with my khaki bellhop uniform with the name tag, I'd say, "Is there anything else?" and Jimmy, there was never anything else, ever.
It was the Washington Generals of hookups. They lost to the Harlem Globetrotters every time.
I was winless.
But people will appreciate the humility of that, because I can tell you, as someone who drove a cab a long time, the same thing. You sometimes have this blinder of entitlement, like you think you're eligible in a competition, that you haven't been registered in this karate tournament. Right. Miyagi didn't fill out the form.
They are looking at the back of your head, and they can't wait to get to their drop-off location.
It's so true, but it was great. Jesse Waters is in studio. I want
to just give Jimmy a shout out, because I think he may have been one of the only people that interviewed me about the book who actually read the book.
Oh, yeah, no, listen.
And we've had a lot of great people interview me, but you actually have read the book.
Oh, no,
is this the first book you've read in a while?
Stop it. I mean, if you've heard the show, it might be the only, No, I'm big into pop-ups and,
Good,
I read the Biden memoir. It was a scratch and sniff. It was a lot going on.
Well, thank you for reading the book.
No, I enjoyed it. I mean, one thing I can tell you is I wrote a book based on the time I spent driving a cab, and I had the same experience as you. I knew people were just talking to me about the blurb.
It's a humbling experience.
Yeah, it is.
And it's good for people to be humbled.
Do you kind of feel like, I was going to ask you this, when you're in the process of writing a book, don't you almost feel like a Unabomber in that you're so sequestered off with your thoughts for such a large amount of time?
I write that at the end. I said, Jesse Waters has actually gotten sick of talking about Jesse Waters. I didn't think I could get sick of it, but I did. And, after a while, it's enough with the self-introspection.
Yeah.
You just got to stop looking inside, and you got to start pointing fingers at other people. And that's where I am now.
No, this book ends with him throwing a lot of rocks out of that glass house. So I'm just hurling rocks at passerby. Let me ask you a couple of Waters things, though, so a little more self-introspection. One of the cool stories in the book is about how the first time you pitched to Bill O'Reilly, he thought you were an intern. And you had the experience of being in front of what you described as like Simon Cowell. You pitch good, you pitch bad, you got shot down. Without even
Did I write that? Did I say he was the Simon Cowell?
Yeah, it was like a Simon Cowell.
It's a good line.
Yes. Well,
I keep rereading the book for the first time, and I was like, oh, that was a good line.
Well, it's solid. No, it's solid. It's solid. I wish you'd compliment your looks a little more, though.
Did I not do enough of that?
Read the book. But let's talk about this. How are you, as the recipient of pitches, as a guy who hosts his own show? Are you agreeable, or are you how does your staff handle you?
So all of our pitches now on Waters World are digital communications. We used to do the in-person pitch meeting, and I found them tedious and insufferable. And I think that's how my staff saw me, as tedious and insufferable. So we just knocked that off, and they just email me now.
Oh, that's funny. Well, it's good insight into the process. It's efficient, is what you're trying to say.
So as a producer who's now a host, it's tough because I know what it takes to produce a show. Yep. So I have very little patience for mistakes, and I know we shouldn't be leaving things to the last minute. I didn't want this interview to become something where I trash my staff.
No, your staff's
great. And I'm not trashing my staff, but I have high standards because, I know what it takes to put on a cable show.
No, I agree 100%. Let me ask you this, though. Papa Waters is the original collar popper in the family?
Yes. So
your dad?
My father popped his collar as his father had popped his before him. And so I didn't think there was anything that strange about it.
Yeah.
So one of the times I went out on one of these factor shoots and it was hot, so I popped it. And it kind of gave me a little flair to separate myself from the rest of the goons that walk around with a mic. And Bill said, now, Waters, now that you've done it once, you can't put it down. It's now your trademark. So no matter what collar I wore, I had to put it up.
That's funny. Yeah, your dad popped a collar. My dad popped a can of Meisterbrow every day at 3.
Okay.
His father popped a can of Meisterbrow.
At 3, all right.
Long line of descendants. Last question then. You said the pandemic humbled you by the end because you were home and stuff. And I know you've kind of come out of that awakening now. But do you think on some level, this is my theory anyway, I feel like everybody was forced to reevaluate everything in the course of the last year because the destruction around everybody was so arbitrary at times that I do feel like everyone went through this like thorough self-vetting process where they're kind of relaunching life. Did you take anything out of that that's different now? I know that's kind of heavy for the end.
Well, I did write the book during the pandemic, which it forced me to really get cracking because there was nowhere else to go.
Yeah, you have no excuse.
No excuses.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like if all of those people, if they didn't catch up with you last year, they're not your friends. They're not. There's no excuse for not having caught up in the last year.
Right. So, I think what remains important and was important before, but people didn't realize it, family's important and friends are important, but just getting on a schedule and staying disciplined with your exercise, cooking for yourself, that's a lost art.
I know. I figured that out.
And if you like your spouse, the pandemic was amazing.
Yeah, you hit the lottery.
But if you hated your spouse, that was torture.
Yeah.
And everybody knows what I'm talking about.
No, so you're spot on. It's like nobody, whenever you hear stories, with very few exceptions, nobody you hear that's having a baby post-lockdown is having a third or a fourth. They're usually having a first because nobody who homeschooled was like, we should do more of this. You know what I mean? No, it got dicey. Like, things were bad if you got kicked out of a Zoom cocktail party.
Yes.
Like, all right, this guy, we can't even have this guy in a microphone.
Right. I did not ever participate in that, but I'm sure you did, Jimmy.
There were moments. I'm not proud. We lost a lot of good men out there. The book is called How I Saved the World. And if you didn't pull it off, you came perilously close. It was a photo finish. It's a great book.
Has anybody ever said that this office of yours looks like the 40-year-old virgin's apartment? Has anybody said that about you?
Listen, I'm glad you did this
Am
at
I
the
the
end.
first one?
No, it does what it looks like for real, though. It does. It looks like the inside of a van that promised you candy. You know? Can you even imagine in that day, hey, kid, get in the van, I got candy. They're like, does it contain peanuts?
Yes.
It's a whole different game now. But it's a fantastic book. You should check it out.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Jesse Waters, thanks for this, man.